Hello, Chris.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Listen, I got something we have to talk about immediately
Yeah,
because I have an 80s movies podcast,
yeah.
$2 late fee, just sporting the shirt because I felt inspired. And I felt inspired because 4 minutes ago, right before I sat down for this, I was editing an interview with Michael Pare.
Wow.
And then I'm like, let me go see who else Chris has interviewed. And the first thing I see is an interview with Michael Pare. I'm like, I'm having one of those moments where I'm like, am I having a seizure? Because
Yeah,
this is too bizarre.
yeah.
And then I go on to see that you've interviewed, Leah Thompson, Joyce Heiser, who we also interviewed.
Okay.
But I need to understand. I need to understand. You're like 20 years younger than I am. How is this even part of your world?
Um, I don't know. Ever since like fifth grade, I think it probably started everything from yeah, fifth or sixth grade. I rented the Breakfast Club, and that just like changed everything. So,
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, I'm like, we're gonna be best friends
yep.
because this is amazing.
Yeah,
And I applaud you too, because um, you're getting you I mean, anybody making anything, I always applaud. And the fact that you are doing all of these interviews and consistently putting out great interviews and getting great people is really admirable. Um, but I was like, what's happening right now? I'm listening to Michael Pare and I'm seeing Michael Pare and then I'm seeing Michael Pare in your world. I've lost my mind. So yes. So from one 80s movies fan to another, great stuff.
thank you. Who else have you guys interviewed?
We've been interviewing for we've been doing the podcast for like 3 years, and we cover movies and soundtracks, and then we usually interview somebody connected to the previous movie that we covered. So it's really ranged all over, but a lot of the people that we interview, people don't have no idea who they are, and we're like, but it's very meaningful for us, mostly because of the nostalgic aspect of it.
Yeah,
Movies that I loved as a kid, revisiting now. So yeah, we've done a ton of interviews. Yeah, I'm part of me is like, you wouldn't know who a lot of the people are, but you
great.
probably would. You
Yeah,
probably would. Yeah, Eric Roberts. We just interviewed Stoney Jackson, who's also from Streets of Fire. We're having a Streets of Fire
okay.
June.
Yeah,
Walter Hill. Yeah. Anyway, it just feels so weird to talk to someone who's 24 and I'm seeing these interviews. I'm like, what's happening?
yeah.
But yeah, but I'm sure nobody else cares about that, but you and I. But yes, that's
Yeah.
yeah. I'm flustered, man. I'm flustered in the best way.
Yeah. Also, before getting to Fire Emblem, I can just jump around then with your career. So
Yeah, what? Let's jump around, man. We could talk about career, 80s movies. How did you even get started in interviewing people?
well, I can address that. 2 years ago in April of 2020, when right when COVID shut everything down, and I virtually met another voice actor that I was a fan of, and I just realized that after that meeting ended, I realized that a lot of the voice actors for anime and whatever that I liked the most, I hadn't seen very many. I hadn't seen very many interviews where they were talking about roles that I liked them the most for.
Yes.
And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna try to do this without having to pay for it. Unfortunately, it worked out. So
Yeah, man. I mean, well, because here's the thing. It's like when you think about it, like most people that you interview, just in general, are known for like one thing that everybody knows them for.
yeah,
And so when you engage with somebody and you're like, hey, tell me about that thing that you think nobody saw, X amount of years ago or whatever, or just something more obscure that they really enjoyed doing. It goes beyond a good conversation.
great, yeah,
It becomes something else. So and I'm sure, I don't know how often you hear this, but like, yeah, like with us, it's like people are like, why do you even know about that?
yeah.
And I feel like I just saw you. I checked in on one interview you did, and someone was like, you saw that? And you're like, yes, I did. And they're like, oh, I don't understand what's happening. So anyway,
Yeah. Well, I know in terms of when you got to LA, the first thing you did was video game testing for Spider-Man 2.
I mean, how do you know that? Yes, yes, yes. How do you know that? Yes, I did. This is amazing. So I've been voice acting a long time, and I was voice acting in New York, but when I moved to LA, it was sort of with a focus on TV production because I also have a production background. I've produced a lot of shows, most recently, documentary stuff, non-scripted. Tried to do as much feel good TV as possible, that kind of thing. But when I got to LA, it was really kind of about I wasn't necessarily sure about the voice acting. I always loved it. But I kind of wasn't sure where to start. And so being a gamer, I was like, oh, let me go and work over at Activision. They're hiring testers, and specifically the Spider-Man 2 video game was where I got my start. And it was, it was, I don't know if you have any experience with video game testing, but it immediately takes out any joy that you have for gaming. Mm-hmm. Because your objective is not to play the game. You're kind of playing the game to break the game. You're doing things where you're jumping out into you're Spider-Man and you're picking up a robber and you're jumping into the water and seeing if it crashes, that kind of thing. And so I wasn't there very long, but I was there long enough to realize like this isn't really what I don't really love this because it was the kind of place where everybody would they'd have breaks from video gaming and people would be like, let's play another video game. And I'd be like, guys, I need sunshine. Doesn't anyone want to breathe air? Yeah. We're in Southern California. Let's go breathe some air together. And everyone would be like, nah, let's play Tekken. I'd be like, I can't. This is crazy. And of course we were testing inside of a basement, an actual basement. So there was no light. It was quite depressing. But I love that you know that I did that.
Yeah. It's amazing. How did you fall into doing PA work then, and TV and stuff?
Well, when I was in New York, I had been producing already. So it was one of those things of like, when I was in college, I finished up college at NYU at film school, and I was very, very fortunate. I sold a television show called the Dustin and Justin Show with my buddy Justin Bartha. And we, it was kind of like a prank show before, it was like punked before punked in the sense of, but it was all celebrity interview based. And we would just do weird things, like sing them songs and just have a lot of fun with them. But I'm not feeding back, am I, to you?
No, it's good.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I sold a pilot to MTV, and I was I was like 22 years old, and I was like, okay, this is going to be my life now, and doing MTV stuff, and this is going to be great. And of course, it didn't pan out that way. But I was producing things for Showtime, or what was called Show Next at the time, which was like Showtime's baby brother, and so I always had that skill set. So kind of going into that world wasn't a huge jump, and it was more like kind of like take whatever job is available at the time when I was first in LA, and I went quickly from video game testing into working on the show Big Brother, which is still running, the hit of the summer. It's a reality show that probably wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't airing during the summer, but it's super successful. And still around. And I was hired as someone's executive assistant, but it was this amazing producer who had never had an assistant before. And he was kind of like, I don't even know what to do with you. I'm just going to train you as a story producer. And I was like, great. So that's kind of what launched me into that side of the business. Cause from there, it was just like going from show to show, and and it was great.
Was that same line of work also how you got into SAG?
SAG, I got into, a funny story about SAG is that, I was a member of AFTRA way back. I did a commercial for, I don't know, the Food Network or something. Like I did a voiceover for the Food Network, got into AFTRA that way. And then AFTRA at that point had not merged with SAG. And around the time that SAG and AFTRA were going to merge, I was given some bad information. I found out later. I was given some information that basically said, we're merging and you're going to have to start fresh anyway and, pay your dues fresh. And I was like, I don't really want to do that right now. So I put my membership on hold until until I'm going to be SAG eligible, if it's going to be a separate thing. But then what happened is I did this improv show and I was qualified then to be a member of SAG. And I got this letter that said, congrats, you can join SAG. And I was like, okay. And I called up SAG and SAG was like, you've been a member for 11 years. Awesome. And I was like, I didn't know that. No, tell me more. And they said, yeah, you have 11 years of back dues, which was like thousands and thousands of dollars. Anyway, needless to say, I didn't pay that, but had to appeal to the board and be like, hey guys, listen, this is what I thought was happening. This was not happening. But I was actually I was in SAG before I knew I was in SAG for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And yeah.
And what was your experience working on the Chelsea Handler show?
The Chelsea Handler show, I was kind of like a writer. This was on one of her first shows. It was kind of like a hybrid show where there was like sketches, and I can't remember if there was she was doing stand-up comedy in that or not. I don't think so. But yeah, it was a lot of fun because I had a lot of freedom to kind of go into the edit room and sort of make whatever I wanted. Mm-hmm. And Chelsea was very, for the most part, very agreeable, like with everything that we would do. So it was fun. It was just like, yeah, driving around LA and making fun sketches and stuff. So
was there something that happened that made you want to pursue acting more than that kind of work?
Well, I've always loved acting, the creation, but I'm really a storyteller at heart. And I think anything that really, connects to that creative side is what I love doing. But yeah, I did hit a point, some 12 years ago now, 13 years ago, where I was like, I need to get back into voice acting. And when I went back in, I went back in full force, I was like, this is my life and I'm doing this and I'm gonna, nothing's gonna stop me, kind of a feeling. And it's been great.
It does seem like you work in kind of every field of voiceover too.
I do. Yes. So, obviously the character stuff is amazing, right? Like everybody loves that. It's great. It's a lot of people's intro into the world of voice acting, but it really is the commercials, the promos, the narration that are the bread and butter. And anybody that wants to make this a career, it's really hard to do that on, I'm sure your guests have told you, perhaps you can't really just do that if you're just going to work in anime. Right. Or even animation these days. It's just hard. It's just hard to sustain. So you need other things. You need to really diversify as a voice actor to pay those bills. Mm-hmm. So it's what that's what I tell everybody that I coach and work with. That really, you want to be as diversified as possible, but also, you start to focus on what you're good at and hone in. Yep. Eventually, and know who you are as a performer, and then you can just, that really helps inform what you do.
Mm-hmm. Have you or do you do very many celebrity voice match kind of things?
I don't do a ton of voice matching, and I'll tell you why. To me, with voice matching, I kind of lose my intention. In other words, when I'm trying to voice match, it becomes more about, I'm focusing so much on the voice matching that I kind of lose the acting. So really, there's only a few kind of things that I would even attempt at this point with that, because it doesn't take much to just kind of be like, oh, I've lost it. I'm trying to sound like Chris Pratt and I've lost it, So yeah, there are people that are so skilled at it, and I leave it to them.
Well, what do you think the darkest headspace you've had to get in for character or whatever is so far?
Darkest headspace. Look at this question, Chris. This is amazing. What is the darkest headspace I've ever had to get in for a character? You know, it's actually been pre-voice acting. I was in a play about the Holocaust called The Survivor, and I had to, you know, basically betray my people, and that was kind of messed up. You know, as a Jew in Poland during that time. Yeah, it was not. That's the one thing that comes to mind, is just far as like, just, you know, the most disturbing.
What about the most significant voice alteration that you had to do?
I love these questions. Meaning voice alteration that I had to do for myself, as opposed to somebody putting anything on it, or no post processing.
Right,
is what you're saying. I don't know. You know, it's tough for me to sustain really tough gravel for long periods of time. Maybe I was a troll in something and I was like, oh, this is just a little bit too much. I'm trying to remember what that was, though. I think it probably hasn't even come out yet. You know, it's in video games, it's all NDAs and code names, and then it comes out and you're like, wait a minute, was that what I was in? Okay. Surprise. But yeah, I tend to when I can help it, I try and avoid the super stressfully stuff. And of course, you know, never audition with something that you can't maintain for more than, you know, a minute. So that's a good question. Yeah, I'm yeah. I'll have to think on it further.
So were you familiar or a fan of the Fire Emblem franchise before getting into it?
I knew nothing about Fire Emblem. I knew of the lore of Fire Emblem, the legend of Fire Emblem, and certainly all of my friends and colleagues within that world. But yeah, no, this was the first for me.
Was that just a pretty general audition when it came through too?
Yeah, I mean, they're all, you know, nobody tells you what anything is ever, and you know, if I can remember about it, I think it was just some very generic character. I can't remember at all. I mean, this was a long time ago at this point. It was yeah, I mean, this was probably last summer or maybe last fall, but either way, yeah, when it came through, very unremarkable, not a lot on the page, and you know, and then the fun is like, okay, well, what can we do with this to make the character pop?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Was that you remember if it was Caitlin Galt directing you?
It was Caitlin, yes. Do you know Caitlin?
Yeah, it was like late December. I entered her too. So
amazing. Yes, she's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Great director. Love working with her.
What aspects of Askr could you relate to at all?
Well, you know what's funny is like I tend to be very sarcastic in my day-to-day, and I always seem to play these characters who are the most purest, noblest, like their intention is always so good, which and as a person, I really like, I resonate, like I have a real problem with things like injustice, you know, and I like, so if I see something that's, you know, happening that's bad, I'm like, oh, you know, and I like to believe that there is goodness in everybody, you know, but then on the surface, it's more covered up by like sarcasm. But then when I get to play characters where it's like, there is nothing ironic about Askr, you know, he is pure. He is, his intentions are always of the highest order.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not frazzled by anything. So all of that resonates to me, you know, just the pure aspects of like connecting with another human being on this, like, I kind of see through you. I see that you're uncomfortable, or I see that you're, you know, it's your own projections. It has nothing to do with me. And just kind of like that bigger view, you know, for lack of a better term. Sort that sort of answers your question, but like, you know, just really that really just you know, calm equanimity, whatever arises is all good.
Mhm. And it is really interesting that prior to where they ended up, that I mean, it is based off the real mythology, but of course, him and Embla were like the first humans made on Earth.
Yep. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, depending on your knowledge of mythology and all of that. But yeah, I'm fascinated by it.
It was funny when I did, because I did Mayana, who is Embla, like not.
Huh? Yeah.
She said that it was nice because she got to play off your lines when she was recording her stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, that was lucky.
Yeah.
I'll need to see that. Yeah, I obviously didn't have that benefit, but that's rad.
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah, and that just that back and forth between these two characters, that, you know, the relationship is so much deeper than just what's on the surface.
Yep.
This connection.
Did you download the game after he came out?
I did download the game. Yes, yes. I'm not particularly adept at playing it well, but but I'll have to give it you know, give it a go. Give it some designated time.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen all the fan reaction stuff to how hot people think he is.
Well, you know, it's so funny. I didn't see a ton. I just kind of saw, and actually, you know, your email came in and notified me before anything. So, you know, I got the email from you and I was like, okay, I guess, you know, something's been announced. So you're really on the cusp of the breaking news. But then, yeah, then I kind of, you know, just took a glance at the Twitter, and everyone was like, "Oh, cow daddy, let me milk you." And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. But I haven't, I haven't gone too deep into the, you know, into the milkings, or you know what I'm saying? That sounded gross, but yeah, I haven't gone too deep into it, but seems like people are excited, which is cool.
And it sounds like you did mention earlier that do you have friends in the VO community who are part of the franchise too?
Yeah, well, I know a lot of the folks, you know, who are part of some of the other games, you know, like I know Joe Zija, and yeah, I mean, I just feel like everyone, you know, it's a small, tight knit community, so it's really not. You don't have to go very far to be like, oh yeah, I know all these folks.
All right. Yeah. Who are you? Outside of that, like who are you closest with like the other VO community people there?
You know, I'm close with a lot of folks that that work a lot in you know, in commercials and promos and stuff. I'm trying to think about, you know, on the anime side, like I'm friends with June Yoon.
Okay, yeah.
You must know June. I feel like everybody knows June.
Yeah.
June is like, you know, I call him like the Ted Lasso of like the VO community, because it's just like it's the best kind of positivity that we all need, you know, at the right time. Like when things are darkest, you look to June and feel better.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then it's, you know, then it's kind of everybody out of that world. But
have you gotten the chance to do ADR for any like major film and TV?
I do a lot of dubbing for foreign TV shows.
Okay, yeah.
So you know, there's this Italian mob show called Gomorrah on Netflix, which I do some characters in. There's a news show, and I you know, again, it was under a code name, so I don't know what anything's going to be called, honestly, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it in its original language. you know, there's this show on HBO called The Investigation, which I did a character for in the English dub. Yeah, and I've done a little bit of like Walla and things like that for various shows, but not a ton of that.
Well, it does look like you got to do some stuff on one of the late night shows.
Yes, well, I've done, you know, I voiced some sketches for Kimmel and the Late Late Show, and you know, various announcing, or you know, they'll have fake trailers, things like that, fake ads, a lot of that stuff.
And going back to Askr, I did mean to mention this. It seems like, was it just meant to use your natural voice? Was that the direction?
Well, it's a good question. So I think, you know, Askr speaks very deliberately in a way that is not, it doesn't always come off conversational. Like his conversational is very distinctly, you know, it's good to see you, Chris. I'm very glad to see you. The fact that we both love 80s movies is something I really enjoy. You know, it's more like that sort of thing. So is that me? Yes. Is that a facet of me? Is that how I talk? No.
Yeah.
Not at all. But I think all voiceover is that, you know, and if you're doing it right, it is some aspect of you, you know, and how you feel about what it is that you're engaging in.
Right. Yeah.
Whether you're talking about, you know, an ad for Target or the kingdom being in disarray, it's the same idea.
Yeah. So talking about your podcast, do you guys regularly try to get guests, or does it just correlate to whatever film that you're talking about or topic that you're talking about?
Yeah, I love these questions, Chris. I love them. Yeah, we basically, you know, to have as much intention as we can, where it's like, okay, if we're going to talk about this movie, let's see who we can get from it. But a lot of times it is that, you know, we have a guest recommends, you know, a guest recommends another guest, and then we're then, you know, factoring in the movie to kind of coincide with that guest. But we've been real fortunate because we have not hit difficulty as far as booking people or you know, having a good time with folks and getting good interviews.
Is the most recent or are you guys still focusing on Streets of Fire?
Yes, Streets of Fire is all this month.
Okay.
All this month. June, Streets of Fire. We just you know, that's a big one. And anyone watching, if you want to check out Streets of Fire, there is no movie on the planet like that movie.
Right.
It is a rock and roll fable. It is super unique. You know, it's a musical. It's a moody 80s, 50s hybrid. Yeah. I recommend people check it out because it's just so different.
Well, there's a number of anime where I don't even know if you know this, but there's a number of anime series like in the 90s and stuff where there's references to the like poster in the background of the
Talk
shop.
to me. Yes. Yeah. No, I didn't know this. Where? Which one?
I think Bubblegum Crisis. I don't know. Do you know what that is?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. There's like more than I know there's one instance in Sailor Moon for sure. Other stuff that I know I've seen it in because Japan really loves that movie.
That's amazing. You know, I've seen like the posters, the Japanese style posters, and like the releasing of soundtracks, or the soundtrack, you know, both in Korea and Japan. Very different. That's cool. I'm gonna for sure check that out.
And do you have a personal favorite subgenre of horror?
Yeah, I mean, horror is one of those things where it's like I love it, but I'm not like, my co-host Zach is like, he's Mr. Horror, and he can just like, he has these facts at his head, and I'm like at the tip of his fingers. I'm like, at his head. What does that mean? But you know, for me, yeah, it's like even movies that are sort of more current, that pay kind of an homage to 80s horror, are things that I like really enjoy. So like, there's a movie called The Guest.
Yep.
That's fairly recent. You're like, yep, seen it.
Yep.
interviewed everybody in the show, everybody in it. Yep. That's one that kind of stands out like recently. But what is it for you? What's your subgenre?
I tend to like psychological horror the most, like stuff that could actually happen. So.
Yeah. Like what's an example of one of your favorites?
You know what Pin is?
Wait a minute. This is freaking me out. Dude, did you say Pin?
Yeah.
Pin is my wife's favorite horror movie.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yes. What's happening right now? It's so weird. And you have no way of knowing that, obviously, but yes, A Plastic Nightmare, Pin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cynthia was one of my early interviews too.
I saw that. Oh. I saw that. So yes. I'm going to watch that interview now, but I just saw like right before I logged on with you. I'm like, what is happening right now? Why do you know those people? Yes. Pin is amazing. Canadian mastery.
Yep.
Dude, they're having a seizure. I don't understand what's going on. But yeah, absolutely, Pin.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still like a number of slasher stuff too, but it's kind of more interesting to me when there's, if the slasher stuff is, more well acted or there's better people in it, like before they were famous, like Daphne Zuniga, like the stuff that she did.
Yes. What a great reference. Of course, from Spaceballs, I feel like maybe the audience would know her from that, or but I know her from like Vision Quest. It's one of my favorites.
In the past couple of years too, I had not outside of horror. In the past couple of years, I had really gotten into exploring more drama thriller movies from like the late 80s, early 90s too. Like one of my favorites now is the Last Seduction.
Yes. Okay, so you're like super well-rounded with movies.
Yeah. I mean, comedy, I like a lot of comedy stuff too, but I kind of tend to prefer like, I don't know, darker, drier comedy stuff.
Yeah. No, good. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
Love it.
What about like besides like I guess what are some of your favorite 80s movies?
My favorite 80s movies are my favorite movie of all time is a movie called Better Off Dead from 1985. Savage Steve Holland. It's kind of very distinct style of humor. John Cusack, Diane Franklin. Have you interviewed Diane Franklin, by the way?
No, I saw that you guys did.
Okay. Yes. Diane just wrote a book about Better Off Dead.
Yep.
That apparently I'm in, wearing her coat from the movie. I'm very excited to see that. Anyway, that's a weird little nerdy moment that has nothing to do with anything aside. But Better Off Dead, Back to the Future, Raising Arizona, Real Genius, Fletch, comedies like that. So, it's one of those things like where you have something in your head from when you're younger. It just stays with you forever, and you're like singing it one day. You're like, "What is that? I don't know. Why do I have this in my head?" And then you're like, "Oh, it's the Sugar Beat song from Sesame Street from 40 years ago. I don't know." So,
is there over where you are in LA? Are there very many places that do like VHS rental?
Well, funny you should ask, because the store Vidiot's, which outside of LA, no one would know about it, but it was a Southern California staple from the 80s. That was the place to go. And Vidiot's is coming back like any day now. And we're actually like interviewing the owners tomorrow about it. That just, that the physical media is interesting to me, because I feel like it's fallen out. Anything you really want to see, you can just see at the push of a button. There's very few things that you can't find streaming. So it is just kind of interesting. The co-host has some really good. I'm just freaking out, Chris. I don't know. I'm very flustered by this whole interview, because I feel like it's like you've peeked into my brain or something, and I don't even have answers for things, because I'm like, what's happening right now? Why do you?
Yeah.
Why do you know what pin is? I don't understand.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I guess it depends on who watches it, but like I know when I first the first time that I showed my mom pin, she enjoyed it, but she's like, yeah, I can't really recommend this to a lot of people.
You're talking about pin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Right. Because it's not like you didn't learn about it from your mom.
No.
You're not learning about these movies from your parents.
No. Yeah.
No. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Well, I think the way that I found out about pin actually was the actor who plays the teenage version of the male character, David Hewlett's character. He was actually, when he was older, he was a voice actor for the first Sailor Moon dub.
Whoa, that's trippy.
Yeah. So when I like went back when I was old enough to like start researching voice actors and taking note of that, that's I think where I was like, what is
okay. Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I feel like I got a deep dive on that movie now. Amazing.
So what kind of stuff have you been working on recently then in terms of voiceover?
Well, commercially right now, I'm the voice of Nissan. I do all of the promos for TBS. Friday at 7 on TBS. Like anything you watch on demand, the following program is rated M for mature audiences. That's me. I'm in a ton of video games. I have no idea when they're coming out or what they are. And the amount of time between recording something and it coming out can be ridiculous. So I don't know. I just voiced the Floor is Lava season 2 trailer. I do a lot of promos and show opens. I'm totally spacing on the TFT Gadgets and Gizmos Championship was just happened like last month, and I was like the show narrator for that. Nothing else is coming to mind, although there are a lot of things. But
well, my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Whoa, dude. I think it really just comes down to, kindness, decency, helping others. Really, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's somebody that helped others. And, my friend Tom and I would always have this joke that was just kind of like the way that the VO community would always present things would be like, the mantra that somebody would say would be like, don't be a dick. And to me, I'm like, we would always joke, like, is this really a thing? Like, you're really concerned with people, not being a dick? Like that would be the most important thing that people would say about voiceover, like, whatever you do, don't be a dick. And to me, it's like, that's a given. I just don't even know why anyone would be a dick, really, at any point, but especially in this world where it is just so supportive and amazing. So yeah, to me, it's just like we just need more kindness. The world is just so divisive and nobody has a conversation anymore. It would be very nice to just have a legacy of decency,
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Thank you, man. Great meeting you. I mean, I feel like I'm going to have you be a correspondent on our podcast now, because you clearly know more than we do. And it's been fun. Thanks for asking me on. And KIT. Do kids say that? Do people say that anymore? KIT?
I don't know what that means.
It means keep in touch. If you were, if you're old like me. Or TTFN or right, ta-ta for now, or I don't know. What come on, what do the kids say when we end interviews? What do you say?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I just thank the person again and then just say bye. So
All right. Well, thank you and bye.
yeah. But yeah, you're my 241st.
Holy cow, dude. That is so impressive.
Thank you.
You should wear that on the shirt. When you hit 250, you should have a party.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. A celebration. Well, yeah. 241. That's a great number. I'm happy to be part of that.
And yeah, I'll be sure to send this to you once I have it up.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, bud.
Bye.
Good meeting you.